So a little bit about me first. I am Mark Gregory. I'm the owner of Mark Your Occasion. My stall is just over there. And you might be wondering, why do I know so much about vows? Well, the main thing that I do in the wedding industry is that I am a celebrant, which means I'm often helping couples to write their own vows. I am also a former English teacher, and I've got a language degree as well, so I'm quite good with words. So if you do, you're wondering about my credentials, just come and have a chat with me afterwards. So, the next question you might have is, why should I bother writing my own vows? Why don't I just use generic vows that everyone uses? And I'm very much of the opinion that your wedding day should be as personal to you as possible. And vows, with most ceremonies, vows are the one bit in your ceremony where you actually get to talk to each other. Most of the rest of the time is the celebrant or the registrar saying things, it's the musicians playing some music. You don't actually get to say much until you share your vows and share your rings with each other. So the vows are actually really, really important. You know, you're not talking through me, you're not talking through readings, they're through your own words to each other in front of the people that you love the most. It's a hugely emotional and unforgettable moment, the sharing of vows. Not just for you two, but for everyone else in the room. It's something that everyone remembers. They remember the emotions, not the chair covers or whatever else, what flowers were in the flower arch. So make the most of it. Say what you feel. Be brave, and you'll thank yourself later. Even when you're old and grey and start arguing about thermostat settings, just remember the vows that you gave. They allow you to tell your story in your own words, not what tradition says that you should say, but what you actually feel. And they remind you both of why you're there, of why you're doing this. And with that in mind, do you really want to repeat the same vows that everyone else has given? I think it's much more beautiful to have them write them yourself, or at least get some help with them. So, I have a simple structure to write vows that I share with all of my couples, and I'm going to share that with you today as well. It's a very simple us, you, me structure. Basically, you start your vows talking about you as a couple, us. What I love, what you love about your lives together, right? What you do together, why you make such a wonderful couple. Then you talk about you, the other person, what you love about them, and how they've helped you grow, yeah? And then you talk about yourself, yeah? What you promise to do for the other person in the future. So you talk about us. If I was the groom, I'd be talking about us as a couple. Then I talk about you, what my wonderful fiance, my bride-to-be, has given me and helped me grow. And then you talk about what you will do, what you promise to do for them. Us, you, me. And if you're in doubt, just follow that structure and you'll absolutely smash it. So let's talk about a few examples of what they are. So us, what you love about your lives together, what I love about our life together. This is your chance to talk about your shared world, the adventures that you've had, the traditions that you've made together, the everyday magic that is just the two of you. So, for example, you might say something like, I love that we've built a home where Friday nights always mean pizza, pajamas, and terrible reality TV. And somehow it's perfect. Those kind of little everyday things that are in jokes with you, that are just you guys, are really perfect for vows. You're painting a picture to the other person, but also to the guests of the world that you've built together and the one that you're promising to keep building. Then you talk about you, the other person, what they have done for you, right? Here's where you shine a spotlight on them, their quirks, their kindness, the way they drive you mad, and yet you couldn't love them anymore. How they've helped you to grow, taught you patience, resilience, laughter, joy, whatever it is they've brought to your life. This is the second part of the vows. This is what you talk about. You talk about them, yeah? You're looking at the person, you say, you have done this for me. You have helped me. You are the reason I learned patience, and the reason I can now assemble flat pack IKEA furniture without having a meltdown most of the time, all right? So it's those little things, the things that they have helped you to do. It's these details that hit the hardest. They make it personal and they make it real. And the final bit is me, yeah? What I do as the groom, or what you are doing as the groom, the future tense moment, what you promise, what are your actual vows to that person? The sacred stuff and the silly stuff, yeah? This is about the lifelong promises and also the tiny things that make a lifetime rich. For example, I vow to always fight for us, even on the tough days, and to always share with you the last piece of chocolate, even if I really want it myself. These are the vows. The big promises and the small promises make vows that feel real and genuine. There are some other things that you could also incorporate apart from this us, you, me structure. If you want to weave in a little magic, you can theme your vows slightly. If there's a movie or a book series that you're really into, you can or a hobby that you love, you can sort of sprinkle references into your vows. So, for example, if you're a big fan of hiking, you might say something like, "Wherever the trail leads, I'll walk it with you." Those kind of things. You might drop in a line from your favorite film. I had a couple, a bride who wrote in her vows a quote from Dory. From Finding Dory, that Dory said, "I look at you and I'm home," because that was a film that they've both watched together. And don't be afraid to make people laugh. You know, these vows will be very emotional. A lot of people may cry, but also they're a chance to make the guests and your partner laugh as well, because it's all these emotions that are going to be part of your lives together. And you might wish as well to share a dream that you have for your future together, something really specific. You know, I can't wait to grow old with you, arguing about the crossword clues and whether we already watched that episode 30 years ago. Now, that's the content of your vows. And the other thing I want to talk about is how you're going to deliver them. And for me, there are three ways, really, in which you could deliver your vows on the day. You can either memorize them, you can do a call and response with your registrar or with your celebrant, so they will say a line and you will repeat after them. Or you can read your vows from a booklet. And there are pros and cons to each of these methods. Memorizing, for example, of course, the pros are you can really sort of get some powerful eye contact in. You know, if you can bear to look at that person in the eyes for as long as you're giving your vows, then it can be a really meaningful moment. It can be very super emotional, and it can look very effortless. You know, if you've got all your guests there, they're going to be quite impressed with you if you want to show off a little bit, you know, remembering your vows off by heart. But, of course, in the moment, this can be quite difficult. You can just blank, and you've memorized them, and you've said them perfectly beforehand, but then on the day, in that moment, you just forget, and you know, it's not great. So they do need a lot of rehearsal, and I generally say, if you are wishing to memorize your vows, do have a backup. Have some notes on you, just in case you do blank. Call and response is an interesting one because you maintain that eye contact and you can focus completely on your partner, and it does feel quite connected and spontaneous, but you know, you are sort of having your celebrant or your registrar there kind of as the third wheel a little bit. So there's been a couple of times when I've said kind of quite intimate things as if I was the groom, and then they've had to repeat after me, and it can be a little bit funny, but it doesn't always work. And the vows as well, they need to be written in a certain way in which that sort of is conducive to breaking them down into shorter sections. You can't sort of gush and have these long sentences that you might wish to have. They have to be broken down. So you have to write them in a certain way. And obviously you also have to trust your celebrant not to get them wrong or say any names wrong, which I haven't done yet. And then my preferred option is reading them from a little booklet or from some notes that you have. It lowers your stress. It means that you've got the words in front of you. You can guarantee to say exactly what you wrote. You're not sort of missing words or finding the wrong words. You've worked hard on these vows. You should say what you really want to say, so that you've got the words in front of you. You're going to say exactly what you say, and it's great for nervous speakers as well. Obviously, if you're not big in front of other people, then it can be good to have words in front of you to have that sort of safety blanket. But one thing I will say about having a booklet is you need to be careful not to look down. So I would always recommend to sort of go through them beforehand, memorize them to an extent, because the last thing you want is to be looking down at your notes rather than looking at your partner when you're saying your vows. So look down a little bit, find the sentence that you're at, and then look back up at them while you're saying what you want to say. Now, final touches, once you've got them written, once you've decided how you're going to deliver them, I always suggest sharing them with a third party. That can be me as your celebrant, that can be a friend or family member, and I generally suggest that both you and your partner share your vows with the same person. So that person can look at them and basically see them side by side and check that they're a similar length and a similar tone, because the last thing you need is one person gushing for 5 minutes about all the wonderful things that the other person does, and then the other person doing 20 seconds, and it feels very, very imbalanced, and it feels like they didn't have, they couldn't be bothered to say something, or they didn't have enough to say. And also, even if you've got vows that are exactly the same length, a minute each, one of them might be really gushy and romantic, and the other one might be making, in jokes and cracking jokes all the time, and that doesn't really work either, because the tone of the two vows are different. So I recommend you get someone to look over them and just give them a bit of feedback, maybe change a few things, recommend what you can change, add a few jokes, take a few jokes out. Just look at them side by side to make sure that they fit in terms of length and tone. If you are going to write them down, I've got a few tips of how to format them as well, to make sure that they're as easy to read as possible. I do this with all of my scripts. I make sure that none of the paragraphs that I'm reading are more than 4 lines long, because if I have a big chunk of text and I'm trying to read from that text, as soon as you have more than 4 lines and you're looking back and you're trying to find where you are, it's a lot harder. Whereas if you've got those 4 lines, you can look down maybe a couple of times and then read those 4 lines. Make sure you're reading it, and make sure you're printing it in a nice big font, 16-point minimum I would usually say. Nice short paragraphs, clear spacing. Make sure you put a clear space between each of the paragraphs so that you know when your eyes are looking down, you know where to look. And I actually do print vow booklets for my couples as well, with a nice little ribbon. So you might want to make sure that they're nicely designed as well for you. Before you deliver them, always recommend that you practice them at least once in front of the mirror, in front of your maid of honor, in front of your mum, whatever. Read them out loud, feel what it's like to say them, and if you are reading, try and memorize your opening line and your closing line for strong eye contact at those moments. And it's not cheating, of course, to have a few keywords underlined or bolded if you're just looking down and that's the sort of vibe that you're looking for. A couple of things just to say about things to avoid when putting your vows together. Too many obscure in-jokes that only you and your partner will understand. It's great for you guys, obviously, you'll understand those jokes yourselves, but you do have other people there as well, so make sure that the jokes that you're making are more or less universally understandable. Don't stick your head down in the page, mumble into your page, don't waffle for over 10 minutes, keep them nice and short and snappy, say what you want to say. Don't be overly sickly sweet as well, with no real life moments. The last thing you need are really vague vows that you've kind of just, copied from the internet, and there's no personalization in there. You want real things, real moments, real feelings, just to say, if you say, oh, you're wonderful, you're beautiful, you're patient, anyone could say that. Say specific things about that person that they've brought to your life. And also don't mumble, be loud, yeah? Don't be afraid to let people hear you, especially if it's a big room, if you've got people all the way further back, make sure you're projecting loud enough for them to hear you, because the last thing you want is guests at the back of the hall not being able to hear these beautiful vows that you've crafted together and that are really heartfelt and meaningful. And yeah, don't use cliches without meaning them. I love you to the moon and back. What does that really mean? Things like that. Just everything you're saying, make sure that it has purpose, make sure that it has meaning. So, to clarify, to round up, the vow structure is us. Talk about you as a couple, what you've done together, what you love about your lives together. Then it's you, what you have done for me, how you have helped me grow, and then talk about me. Talk about yourself, what you're going to do for the person standing in front of you. If this still hasn't helped, you can come and find me. I'm standing over there, I'm walking around the room, I might be backstage, whatever. I help with vows, I do speech writing, vow writing, script writing, all that kind of stuff for ceremonies. Thank you very much for paying attention to me. And if you're still stuck with vows, come find me and I'll help you out.